Alright, do we have any audio now? Alright, let's see here. How about now? Audio's working now. See? Cool. Does it sound like it's coming from a shotgun microphone, or does it sound like, yeah, laptop? Okay, hold on. See, I haven't done this in like months. Bear with me, guys and gals. Audio is clipping. Yep, I got it. Okay. I'm trying to bounce between the comments and OBS because that's what I'm using. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the audio. Lighting is good though. Appreciate that. Not great audio. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I got the shotgun mic running into a mix pre into this thing right here, this A10, into mic 1. And it says audio is on. Anybody got tips on audio for OBS? Because clearly I'm not doing something right. Let's see here. I'm confused because I pick Blackmagic Design as my audio source and it says check audio in ATEM software control. So I'm doing that and it says the audio mixer. When I click the settings, it says it's coming through. Is this any better? Check 1, 2. We're either going to get there or I'm going to turn this off because I'm sure this is like awful for you guys. Better. Oh, okay. Maybe the mic was too hot on the. Maybe the mic was too hot on this thing. So I think it's just a disaster. I think it was too hot on this thing. So we are. I have not used any of this. I just got OBS on my new Mac and I'm trying a different route. So am I audible though? It's actually not that bad. Just go ahead and start. Okay. I mean this is starting. So okay, this is coming through the shotgun mic, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to turn down the volume here up a little bit. Hopefully that's sounding better. Yeah, Fozzie just says it's actually not that bad, so just go ahead and start. Yeah, this is me starting. I really had no like plans for this. This was like kind of a test stream slash kind of like a 2020 wrap party. So welcome to the party. 2021 was it was really fun. I was traveling a whole bunch. Thankfully, work picked up a little bit for me, so was able to stay nice and busy. So that was super fun. Yeah, I mean, I had a blast. All right, Tariq Sykes says, aka Dunk on Dunks, says much better. Cool. So hopefully audio is sounding better. This is honestly glad it is because I really didn't know how to test it otherwise. I probably should have done like a private stream and been smart about it, but you know, is what it is. Okay, so to kind of keep the conversation going and not keep this make this boring, just keep going off in the comments and I'll just kind of respond and just kind of ask me whatever production lighting, about this t-shirt, cameras, whatever. We can kind of keep up with it. So super happy giant robot says, ending the year with my C200 and EOS R, thinking about getting a C70 Black Magic this year. I'm assuming Black Magic or Black Magic. Your C-Log 3 LUT has saved my life this year. That's awesome. Glad to hear. I'm really happy with the C-Log 3 LUT. I'm assuming you're using the Rec 709 one on the C200. Still a bit hot when I'm talking loudly. Okay, hey, thanks for letting me know. We'll get back to the LUT here in a second. I'm gonna turn that down, and we're just gonna kind of adjust. Just keep me posted on the audio. Okay, so you said you're just gonna get a C70 next year. That's awesome. C70 is a fantastic camera. Shot on a couple times this year, and I love it. It's great. It's like everything the C200 I wish had in a smaller package with the omission of RAW, but you get C-Log 2. So if you're competent with white balance, then there's not really that much of a need for RAW. So yeah, I mean the C70 is an awesome camera, and the preamps are pretty clean. And well, I was on a shoot where we were using Kawa anamorphics, so I mean that makes like any camera look good because it's anamorphic. So but yeah, that'd be awesome. C70 is awesome. The C-Log 3 LUTs should work. I would recommend using the Cinema Gamut LUTs on the C70, and obviously setting, if you're using C-Log 2 or C-Log 3, I'd use the Cinema Gamut. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Shoot me an email. Super happy giant robot if you don't have them, and I'll be happy to send them your way. So yeah, cool. Like a Christmas present or holiday present if you don't celebrate Christmas. Tristan says, "What's up, man? Hey, thanks for joining. Super happy giant robot. How are you liking your Red experience?" I'm loving it. I have the Red Komodo. For those of you that follow my channel, you know that I've had Canon cameras and Blackmagic cameras and now Red camera. And I kind of pick cameras based on my production needs. And as of late, my needs have really, I got it specifically for the global shutter. That's the only reason. And reason being is I've been doing I just read a comment. I've been doing a lot of content in the tactical industry, oddly enough. So the global shutter has actually been extremely helpful in that regard. And the Ursa Mini Pro G2, which is the camera I had before, had a really fast rolling shutter readout, which was awesome. But I did a ton of traveling this year, and the only thing I didn't like about the Ursa Mini Pro was the size and traveling with it. And with the Komodo, with the much smaller camera package, I'm able to pack a lot more of my kit into my carry-on, my Pelican 1510. So yeah, so that's kind of the one. I guess there's two reasons: global shutter and size. So yeah, the Ursa Mini Pro is great, but for travel, I much preferred a smaller camera package. So that was the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, which is the other camera I had, and the rolling shutter is really bad on that camera. So that's why I went with the Komodo and just happened to find one in stock at full compass, I believe it was. And so I got really lucky. So yeah. Let's see here. What light are you lit with? Same Amaran in the background. Right now, I'm actually using the Godox SL something. It's the bicolor, SL100 bicolor, I think. SL100 bi, I think is what it's called. They sent it out to me a few months ago, and I've actually been using it as my key light in this studio setup, which I'm going to make a video on this, because this is a kind of a cool little concept. I made this whole studio setup without using any light stands. Well, I guess there's a light stand right there, but all the main stuff, there's no light stand, so that's kind of fun. So, and I just have to set up to daylight balance, but the Amaran 60D that's becoming like my new favorite light for like specialty stuff. It definitely doesn't replace like a 300D or 600D or something like that, but there's a lot of stuff, like a lot of. I'm gonna make a video on like some cool use cases for the 60D, but more on that later. Let's see here. I love my C70. It was great not having to use a Zoom recorder. Yeah, the preamps on the C70 are pretty good. However, I have been using the sound. I don't have a C70, but no matter what camera now, I've just been using the Sound Devices MixPre 3.2 for pretty much every shoot, and having 32-bit float audio and the incredibly clean preamps of the MixPre has been really awesome. And 32-bit float is really good for like, especially if there's like some environments that are just noisy or whatever. Just having that extra data in there is really good if you want to run it through Isotope or something like that. So so now, sorry, I just saw, can the volume be turned up a little bit? Yeah, sorry, I am kind of working through all that. Let's see here. Sorry, everybody, speakers. I'm going to bring this up a little bit, so hopefully I can kind of be in the little bit better range here. So let me know how this sounds. If this is too loud or clipping, let me know in the comments. Again, this is kind of a disaster of a live stream, but what live stream doesn't have its issues? So, Super Happy Giant Robot, what are your favorite Christmas songs? I don't know. That's a good one. Like, there's just different artists that do different renditions of Christmas songs that I really like for whatever reasons. The First Noel by Phil Wickham, his rendition of the song is probably one of my favorite go-tos. I can't remember the name of the song. This is a bit clipping. Okay. Sorry about this, guys and gals. But you know, I like having, that's the reason I like Christmas music, is because you can just kind of keep it on and go along. I don't really know. So, Flatland Films, do you miss having internal NDs on your Komodo for run and gun filming? I did until I got the Canon drop-in variable ND filter, and then I don't miss it anymore because I actually have internal NDs, which is really awesome. So let's see, I have it somewhere. Is this it? Nope, that's the speed boost. Here it is. So the cool thing about the RF mount is the fact that you can use a ton of adapters. So I actually have a speed booster and the variable ND filter right here. So the speed booster is really good for low light or trying to get a really wide field of view, or if I just want to get that full frame field of view, got that right here, which is really cool. And I'm being really irresponsible with opening all these up. And then there's this guy right here, which has this drop-in ND filter. So you can put that in right here, and then you can see I got variable ND, which is really nice. It's not like the best optical quality, but for running gun, it does really well. And it's great up until the very, very end. In the very, very, very end, when you get to like the strongest max ND, it's got like an extreme blue shift. So that's just something that I have to keep in mind. But it's easy. Like, it's a very small back off, and then there's not a really crazy color shift. So I don't really miss the internal NDs per se, because I have that here. And for like run and gun, I'll run like a 24 to 105 or a 16 to 35 with IS, and then this, and pretty good to go. So, and then more controlled scenarios where I have like a matte box with NDs and stuff, I'll use the speed booster just to kind of give me a kind of more full frame field of view if that's needed, if kind of the scene is calling for that. So it's kind of nice to have a number of different setups, and the speed booster is really good too. If you're going to 4K 60, you'll kind of be in more Super 35 territory with the crop. So let's see here. So Camille, I hope I'm pronouncing that Camille or Camille if you're Hispanic. Anyways, this is a bit clipping. Hopefully the audio is a little bit better now. No, still a bit of clipping sometimes. Coffee money. Thank you so much for the coffee money. I'm really sorry about the audio. One of these days I'll get it right. But yeah, hey, thanks for the €5. That's super nice of you. Super kind of you. Do you do some volunteer projects? I filmed a few interviews for Creative Society project and found it very interesting to communicate with the volunteer community. Yeah, every now and again I'll do some volunteer work if it's for an organization that I really want to help out or something. Like recently I just reached out to the filmmaker, creative director, whoever it is, at the church I attend, and just offered up to volunteer some time for some of their videos and stuff. So yeah, it just depends. Sometimes I like volunteering when I can. It was hard this year, just because companies were, like, my clients' budgets were starting to kind of open up, and they were, wanting to actually get some work done and video work done. So my time became much more limited, especially second half of the year. So haven't had as much time, but that's one of my goals in 2022 is actually volunteer a little bit more. So hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully the audio is okay. I'm trying to speak somewhat monotone because I don't want this to clip anymore. But yeah. So I've gotten through the comments. Keep sending your comments so we can kind of keep the conversation going. Ask whatever or fill in whatever, however you want to do. But yeah. I missed one. Tariq Sykes says, is the 60D strong enough for an interview? Yeah, it absolutely is. It just depends on the environment that you're filming in. If you're going to be filming against a window and battling window light, then probably not, unless you can ND the windows or something. But for something like this, and you can absolutely use the 60D for an interview where you're in a controlled environment, 100%. I mean, this is that light right there currently is sitting at 6%. So that's that'll give you an idea of probably don't give you that much of an idea of intensity, to be honest with you. But yeah, I would 100% if like I actually brought this to Miami on a recent shoot, and you can see it in my video, but on the Amaran 60D, I had to do some pretty quick clips because I just for client approval and stuff like that. But I actually used it for an interview, and I just used it and bounced it into the ceiling and let that become like ambient light, and it turned out looking really good. And that's probably like my favorite and my main use case for this light going forward is for travel, like documentary filmmaking, because it is a point source light, and that little reflector dish does focus that light quite a bit. There's a little bit of a hot spot, and you can probably see kind of in the center there. There is a little bit of a hot spot, but if you bounce that against like a white wall or something like that, then you'll be able to get a pretty good key light. So that's going to be my plan going forward. one of my clients I'll be traveling a lot with probably next year, and I'll be bringing that light on pretty much every shoot. And for quick like weekend trips, for shoots, they do a lot of their filming on the weekends. Kind of a bummer for me, but I was able to pack all my clothes, that light, chargers, and everything in my backpack, and a tiny little tripod, and then in the backpack as well, and then my carry-on Pelican case, and I didn't have to actually check any bags, which is pretty cool. So let's see, Navarro G, I assume that's how you pronounce it. Are you looking for any interns moving to Boulder in February? Hey, shoot me an email. Find my email on the contact form through YouTube, or go to my website, tylerfedwards.com, and try to link up with me and shoot me an email. We'll connect. I'd definitely love to connect with you. CS Film, what do you think about the Sigma FP? Honestly, I've not put, I don't know too much about that camera. When it was released, it didn't really check any boxes for me personally. And if you kind of follow my YouTube channel, my YouTube journey, I kind of talk about equipment that I personally use that has kind of fit into my workflow, and then maybe how it may fit into your workflow. But I'm not cool enough or popular enough or anything like that for to be sent cameras. So I haven't had the ability to get my hands on that camera. And if I do rent a camera, it's going to either be for client work, and I'm not going to like test out a camera that I don't know anything about, or like anything about, pretty much. I mean, I rented the R3, but I have the 1DX3. I've shot on R5, all the Canon cameras, so I was really familiar with that camera system. So all that to be said, I don't know much about it. It's kind of a long-winded way of saying I don't know, and I'm sorry. But if Sigma ever wants to send it to me, are they still making it? I honestly don't even know if they're still making it or not. But looks interesting, but whatever. Scott Balk, yo, hey, I'm finally doing a live stream, and I gotta say, this started off very rough, and it's I envy your setup, because your live streams are really good, and we are we're struggling with audio today apparently. So let's see here. Oh, come on, you're cooler than me, Scott. Let's just be real. I'm not. I can't play piano. I can't play guitar. Except I don't have an amp right now because I had to sell it when I moved because it wouldn't fit in the pod or my car. But maybe one of these days I'll get an amp. And but yeah, no, you're just cooler than me. That's just how it is. You have to accept that and deal with it. I've got a bad reflection on the monitor, so you don't see. Shamaroku, I probably butchered that. I am so sorry. You're good enough too. That's all that should matter. Well, I appreciate that. I do try really hard with YouTube. I feel like a lot of, like, the second half of this year, I feel like I've rushed videos in the sense that I've had so little time for YouTube because I've really been trying to just like take work as much as I can. Especially if you don't know, we moved here to just outside of Boulder, Colorado, just over a year ago, but August of last year. And moving during a pandemic, finding clients has been very challenging. So as soon as I started finding clients and stuff, and I mean, that's my full-time job. My full-time job isn't YouTube, obviously. So I've tried so hard to keep getting work and kind of putting the nose to the grindstone to build my production company up in my freelance career. But obviously that made my YouTube stuff kind of suffer a little bit, and I kind of had to put that on the back burner because I had to pay the bills and keep my clients happy and honor my contracts and all that kind of good stuff. So hopefully I'll get a better, more streamlined workflow next year. with YouTube and everything. But anyways, I feel like my YouTube videos have been kind of rushed, but I'm trying harder. So yeah, content on content. Josh, what's up, man? Appreciate you dropping by. Looking good, Tyler. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Scott says it's challenging doing live streaming, right? Yeah, it's super challenging, especially with the Komodo. My biggest issue right now with the Komodo, I think it's going to be fixed I think it's in the beta firmware right now, but the SDI audio in channels 3 and 4, which are the external audio sources, right now don't go over SDI. And I actually didn't realize that on my first shoot. I actually did use the Ninja 5 for ProRes recording for a shoot. That was an all day shoot, and luckily I had the overlays sent over to the Ninja, because otherwise I didn't get any audio, and the only way I was able to match the audio was to match the time code at the bottom right hand side of the corner, but can't even talk, the bottom right hand corner, and match it up to the time code like that I displayed over the video in DaVinci Resolve. So that was kind of a disaster. So hopefully when the SDI audio comes through the Komodo out through the SDI from external audio, then hopefully it'll be a little bit more streamlined. And it's already kind of ridiculous that I'm live streaming with the Komodo, but it actually, in my current camera setup, it is the best tool for the job, because you can keep it plugged in. It has autofocus-ish, and yeah, so hopefully it'll get better, and hopefully I can live stream more, because I actually really like doing this, just chatting with everybody. So let's see. I have a problem with color noise when filming in C-Log 3 on the 1DX Mark III. Have you noticed it? Yeah, especially in if you go into the HD 120 frames per second, it does get quite noisy. But honestly, in DaVinci Resolve, if you add a little bit of chroma noise reduction, I found that it cleans up the image really, really good. So that's what I do, honestly. I haven't been using the 1DX3 as much for video lately, but when I have, if I add a little bit of chroma temporal noise reduction from DaVinci Resolve, it cleans it up really nice. And then as soon as you grade it and bring those shadows down a little bit in post, it ends up looking really clean, especially after a render. If you're rendering out to an MP4 wrapper or something like that to the web, it pretty much goes and disappears. So Scott says oh wait, I missed one too. Let's see. Can you tell us more about your streaming setup? Yeah. So using Red Komodo is this. I should have hooked up another camera, but using Red Komodo. And do I have another camera that I can? No, it's upstairs. So I got the Red Komodo, and then out of the SDI, I'm using an SDI to HDMI converter, the Blackmagic one, and then I'm using the loop out of that to a little monitor right here, just behind my computer, to get so I can kind of see myself. And then I am running HDMI to the ATEM Mini, and then I have the Sound Devices Mix Pre 3.2 as my kind of audio interface, and I'm using the Rode NTG5 shotgun microphone, and I'm just running the stereo out into mic 1 on here, so you can kind of see what's going on there. I probably will fix it, make it a little bit better, but that's kind of my setup right there. And then I have the Godox SL100 bicolor, I think what it is, and it's set to daylight balance. And then I've got the Light Dome Mark II or Light Dome 2 in here, and then I've got a Falcon Eyes light mat kind of thing. I'm gonna do a whole video on this whole setup right there, but that's gonna give me a little bit of an edge And then I've got the Amaran 60D back there because it was there from the video that I did beforehand. So I just kind of left it there. And then down here, just to kind of light the seamless back or the seamless paper, I've got a DNO lighting panel. It's their LED panel. I've got a video on it, and just kind of got it set to daylight, just to kind of give a little bit more exposure in the back. So, is that it? I think that's it. I'm using the Sigma 18 to 35 right now, and I think it's like at f5, 6 or something around there. So, yeah, I think the Komodo is actually like a really great live streaming camera. The only issue I have is with the SDI, but Scott says the new firmware allows 4 channels of audio, 2 internal and SDI. So hopefully that gets all fixed, and then we can just send the 3 and 4 channel, the external audio out through SDI, and that would be good. So, but yeah, otherwise I actually really like the Red Komodo. The Red Komodo has been a great camera. I'm gonna make the obligatory review on it, just for my use cases and kind of how I've rigged it out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Let's see. So I feel like for more cinematic images, there isn't enough talk about diffusion and nets for blown out backgrounds outdoor. All people mention is use of NDs and black mist filters. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I think if you look at, depending on the channels that you look at, like a lot of what I do is one main band kind of stuff, and it's just like a time thing, and that's why I try to just use more powerful lights to kind of balance the exposure out. But if you are on bigger productions, and I've been on bigger productions where we've had gaffers and stuff, where we have the ability, the time, and the budget to be able to kind of get that stuff out. But like if you look at Luke Cedarville's channel, like Meet the Gaffer, he does all that kind of stuff, and so it just depends on the type of production, and the type of budget to kind of align with that. So, but yeah, I mean the pro mist filters and all that kind of stuff, and ND, like that's not what makes an image cinematic. And an image, in my opinion, isn't cinematic. To me, cinematic is an experience. Everything from sound design to camera movement, composition, all that kind of stuff plays into cinematic in my opinion. But that's a way different live stream. So Scott says, Jared live streams with the Komodo. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like it's a great tool to, it's a great camera for live streaming. And I think once a couple of those kinks that I mentioned are ironed out through firmware, it'll be great. Let's see here. King Kruk Gaming says, cool. Foreign Productions. Hey, how are you? Love the channel and the content you provide. As a freelancer, how were you able to get larger clients and consistent work with a limited reel or without many leads? That's a great question. I did a lot of cold calling. You know, some clients took a chance on me, and after that, clients just start talking, and they kind of recommend you to other clients, and a lot of networking. And you know, I've done a lot of work, you know, just as a camera op or something like that, where I don't have the footage to share, whether it's from NDA or the marketing firm or whoever, the agency says you can't use the footage, whatever. Like I don't own it, so I can't use it. But people on that crew might recommend me, and it's happened before, they'll recommend me to a client where maybe they can't take on the job, or it's not a job they want, or whatever the case may be. So you know, it's all about, I mean, you hear it all the time, but it's all about networking, and that's a big part of it, is just networking. And One of my bigger clients I met at, where did I met their chief marketing officer somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but this was years ago. And when he joined the company, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I remember you said you do video. Let's talk." And that kind of launched into a really great working relationship, and I've done quite a bit of work with. So, yeah, it's network. YouTube has really helped. You know, it may sound silly, but you know, if a client is looking for you, they may end up searching you and finding you on YouTube. And I've had a client tell me like, "Hey, I actually saw your YouTube channel and you do like really good with lighting. So, yeah, let's work together." So, yeah, that's more. But if you want to chat more on that, feel free to shoot me an email. And yeah, we can chat more. Let's see. Scott live streams with Dragon. That's what's up. I thought for some reason you used your A7 III or something like that, or that was your last one. Maybe your last one you were on the A7 III, Scott. Scott says, "Gotta love the Sigma glass." Yeah, I mean it's good. It's just so good. It's sharp. It's 1.8. Even the Sigma, the 24-70 art, I use all the time. That I actually probably use that lens more than I do the 18-35. But yeah, it's just great glass. It's super neutral looking in my opinion. And if you want to make it more characteristic, you can always add Pro Mist or Hollywood Black Magics or Glimmer Glass or whatever. So yeah. Michael Drowley is in the house. Hey man, appreciate you joining. So, if you don't know who Michael is, he is an Aussie, and he also runs a YouTube channel. He's a filmmaker, runs a production company. So, definitely go send him some love. Everything filmmaking. Sup, everyone? What's up? Thanks for joining. Great point. Cinematic is the whole experience. Sorry, I'm just reading these comments. I don't have the fancy program that Scott has to make the comments pop up. I don't really know how to do that. So, I'm just gonna have to read them to you. Michael says, "Love the hustle, so well done. People talk when you work efficiently and know your stuff." Totally agree. Yeah, it's definitely helpful to be efficient on set. And I think one of the things that people don't talk about enough to be a successful freelancer is you got to have the talent. Like you have to know what you're doing, obviously, but something that's way more important and way overlooked when it comes to like YouTube videos is client relations, and that is way more important than being a super skilled editor or anything like that. If you can maintain good relationship with your client and good communication with your client and make sure that their needs are met and that you're making sure that you're on the same page with everything, and you treat your client with respect, and you're timely with emails, you show up on time to shoots and all that kind of stuff. That stuff goes so far when it comes to freelance filmmaking. Let's see, Threefold, love it. Love you, Threefold. Love all of you. I'll definitely be sending you an email. Says forum production. Sweet. All right, cool. Scott, switch your live chat mode to live from top. It'll keep it in order. I'll do that next time. I feel like if I do something, I'm just gonna probably turn the stream off on accident or something. But thanks for the tip, Scott. See, everything filmmaking. Lots of tools make an image more cinematic. Mist filters, bloom highlights, haze, bokeh, water down floors for reflections, dramatic lighting, all that. Yeah, totally agree. Definitely, yeah, for sure. That's a great point. Everything filmmaking, there's so much that goes into a cinematic image, and again, I think I guess my definition of a cinematic is more of an experience than it is just an image. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into the visual side of a cinematic experience. It's not just the camera. The camera is probably the least important factor when it comes to the visual side of a cinematic experience. Let's see. What is the one thing that you focus the most as a one-man band single shooter? Lighting, camera movement, etc. It depends on the project. If it's for an interview, my main goal is to make sure that I've got clean audio. I want to make sure that I treat, I want to have a clean looking, A frame, A cam frame. Obviously, you want to make sure that looks good, and the key light is good to go. But I would say prioritizing audio is also really important, because for an interview, you can cover up a decent looking interview setup with B-roll and keep that interview moving along. But if the audio is bad, then it's just going to be a really poor experience for the viewer. So I would say audio. It's hard. It's hard to say you prioritize one thing over the other as a one-man band, because you're doing it all. But I guess if I were to if there's only one thing that I could pick that would be perfect, it would be audio, because all the other stuff you can usually brush up and post, but you want to have good, clean audio for the interview. We'll stick with that. Let's see here. Wesley, hey man, appreciate you joining. Just got out of the gym. I don't know if it's been covered, but what method worked for you in the beginning with getting clients? It was covered, but we can go over it. The short answer to that is networking. Just talking with business owners, sending cold emails, I guess is what it would be. And just kind of putting yourself out there, and just networking, and then hopping on other shoots, other productions that weren't my own. I've hopped on productions where I was the gaffer, or I was a cam op, or DP, or whatever the case may be. And as you do those jobs, they may not be for your own production company, but you build this experience, and you see how the director works with the client. You see how maybe as a cam op, how the DP works with the director. All that kind of stuff kind of helps your experience level. And then when it comes to bidding out jobs for potential clients, you'll kind of have an idea of how that all kind of plays in together, so you can kind of give a realistic quote for all that kind of stuff. Scott says, there are a bunch of you watching the live stream, but you haven't clicked the thumbs up button yet. Let's get Tyler and audience click that thumbs up. Hey, I appreciate that, Scott. Oh, what a great guy. Every Friday, I can't remember the time. I just happen to always see it pop up. I think it's around 2 p.m. Mountain Time, I want to say, is when Scott live streams, and his live streams are always entertaining. In fact, one of his live streams, Brad Pitt kind of photobombed it through Jared's screen, which was pretty cool. So yeah, go check out his live streams. They're always fun to be part of. Smash the like button. Yes, I like that. Thank you all so much. Gerald says, hey Tyler, just wanted to thank you for your recent B-roll tip video. I'm using that technique on a project I'm shooting right now, and it's working great. Hey, that's awesome. That was one of those videos that I feel like I rushed out, but yeah, if you don't know what Gerald's talking about, I made a video about a B-roll tip, and I called it "That's Actually Useful," and the reason being is because it's not like it's not a cinematic B-roll sequence or something like that. It has to do with still images, and I'll just kind of tease it that way, so you can go watch the video and churn up that algorithm, because yeah, that's why. But I really hope you watch it, because it's actually really useful. I've used it in a couple of documentaries that I worked on this year. One of them is it's actually getting quite a bit of views. It's got like 2,000 views right now. It's about a retired Green Beret. His name is Tu Lam. He runs a company. He runs a company called Ronin Tactics. But if you play video games, if you play Call of Duty, he's actually a character on Call of Duty, and I think his character's name is Ronin. I'm pretty sure it's Ronin. But yeah, it's his story. It was for an eyewear company. The mini docs for an eyewear company, and this is like a shameless plug, I guess, to go watch the video. But it's actually a really, really good film. I'm really proud of it. And yeah, it kind of talks about his story of kind of being born into oppression and kind of making it through life to become a Green Beret, which it's such a cool story. It's super intense. So yeah, that's I use that B-roll technique in that video. So let's see. Universal Twin X plus Avalon T737 plus the Suite plugin equals emoji. I have actually not heard of any of those plugins, so I'll have to go check them out. If that has to do with filmmaking and I don't know what they are, that's probably pretty sad. And I guess that just means I've been way too busy to try to do that, to look into that kind of stuff. I'm at the end of the comments, but that's not cool because I want to keep the conversation going. So let's talk about stream didn't freeze. You bet you thought the stream didn't freeze. Okay, so Scott says Universal Twin X is an audio interface. Oh, okay, cool. Got it. Oh, ideal for live streaming. Okay, got it. Cool. I'll have to maybe check that out. Honestly, I have a feeling once the firmware comes out of beta for the Komodo, all of my problems will be solved, because then we'll be good to go. Avalon is a mic preamp. Okay, cool. I am learning so much. You thought you came to my YouTube channel to learn because I was an expert. Little did you know. I have a feeling once the SDI audio out is fixed on the Komodo, it's going to be the absolute best live stream camera I think I've ever had. So, yeah. Dylan, I'm so glad you liked my my freeze joke. You know, I'll be here all week. Be sure to tip your waitress. C-Suite, C-Vox, noise, and room suppression. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to definitely check all those out. I honestly, like, I haven't put so much effort into the live streaming just because I guess this is bad to say. It's because it's not something that's really generating revenue for me, and I'm not doing it for the revenue at all. I'm just doing it for the fun. But I don't want to invest too much into a setup that I probably won't be using that often. So when it comes to like audio plugins and stuff, like I invested in Isotope, the plugin, the RX Advanced, and that thing is wow. It's incredible. It is. If you have used Blackmagic cameras and Blackmagic Raw and DaVinci Resolve and use that little highlight recovery button, and like it's like kind of magic. Isotope is like that, but for audio. It's crazy. Let's see here. You can learn at least one thing from every person you meet. Absolutely. My goal in life, and this is something that my grandfather taught me from a very young age, and his advice was never stop learning, and never stop learning. I am so inquisitive. I always like to ask questions, and if I know what I'm talking about on a topic, I'm gonna share it. If I don't, I want to learn. And it's about all kinds of random stuff. Like I started going to trivia just because I like learning random facts that are pretty useless in day-to-day life, but still fun to learn. So Scott, absolutely, I totally agree with you. Oh gosh, that's pretty funny. I used that joke to cover up my train of thought, trying to come up with an idea to talk about that I had nothing to talk about. So I just went straight to comedy. What a comedian I am. Can the Komodo stream above 1080? Well, it can send a 4K signal out via SDI. So if you have a capture device that can take a 4K signal in and a streaming signal out to 4K, then yeah, it's absolutely doable. It's all limited to the device. So the A10 Mini that I have here is limited to HD out, so that's why this stream is in HD. But honestly, I don't think most people are watching this on a device where 4K is needed. But I guess it could. Let's see. Komodo can output 4K through SDI. Oh, okay, Scott. I probably should just like read ahead in the comments a little bit and not waste your time. Okay, talk me through your RS3 usage recently. Did you purchase one? Thoughts? RS3. I'm going to assume you're talking about the R3, Michael. I recently rented the Canon EOS R3. Is that how you pronounce it? Just watched a Philip Bloom video and he corrected me. Well, corrected everybody. It's EOS. I rented that for a shoot down in Miami with this company called Ronin Tactics. They were giving I was filming an instruction course for them, and it was all outside. It was all handheld. So I was like, hey, I want to rent the R3. It looks like it'd be like a great camera for that, because I could use the which one is it? This one, the variable ND adapter. It has the internal sensor stabilization, no record limit. So let's see how it goes. And it was great. I had no problems with it. I used 3 batteries the entire day, and I wasn't even dead on the last battery. I still have like half battery left, so like 2.5 batteries. And I just recorded an IPB light in 4K, and it's great. It was awesome. I mean, the image isn't. I'm not like blown away by the image, but it's what you would expect from a Canon camera, from a Canon mirrorless camera. So if you're expecting it to look vastly improved over the 1DX3 or the R5, then you won't. It's not going to happen. But it's a good image, and I shot in C-Log3 Cinema Gamut, and it looks great. But just keep in mind, like I think a lot of people, when a new camera comes out, they're gonna expect this image that just completely looks crazy good, and it's gonna make everything look better, and that's just not the case. That's when it comes down to like camera angles, composition, all that kind of stuff. But it was a great camera. The stabilization was great. The no record limit was really nice. The smaller form factor was nice. It kept it pretty lightweight. And then for audio, I actually used my Mix Pre 3, and I think I'm gonna make a video on this because this is actually like kind of comical. But I used my Peak Design camera strap, and I used the little tabs and I wrapped them around the Mix Pre 3, and had my audio just kind of sitting right by my side. So that's how I ran audio, and then synced it up in post. So let's see here. The dreaded SDI. Knock on wood, I've not had any problems with the SDI. I use 12G SDI cables, and I just follow the protocol all the time. The most annoying part is when you have to swap batteries, and power the camera down. That's when you have to do the whole thing. But I've been using the Bebob Komodo battery adapter, and it lets you hot swap batteries. Kinda, you have to use an external device, but I talk about it in my video. But it allows you to keep all of your accessories powered on, and then you can hot swap a battery and then not have to deal with, you know, the whole SDI, you know, that process where you unplug it, turn it off, and blah blah blah. So Dylan Brown says, what are your favorite filmmaking YouTube channels? Oh my gosh, there are so many. Oh geez. There are. I have to like segment them, I guess, into like production versus camera stuff. Like production, Griffin Conway's channel, a good friend of mine too. Love watching his stuff. I learn so much from his YouTube channel. Threefold, love it. Love their BTS and like how they do production breakdowns. Danny Gevirtz, another great channel. Super solid dude. Gosh, I'm now I'm on the spot and I'm trying to think of all the ones that I go through. Cook Optics, that's a really great one. Apertures, the 4-minute film school, especially when Kevin's the host, my boy. Yeah, they're, when it comes to like technical like camera reviews, well, first of all, Philip Bloom, he's like the GOAT of camera reviewers, and he's also like a great filmmaking channel as well. Keep listening more, because I as soon as you comment like more channels, then I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, duh, that's obviously. Let's see here. I don't know. I circled through some Anbury. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's got really, really cool, like actually cinematic looking lighting breakdowns. Yeah, mine, Tyler Edwards. That's another really good one. He's a total nerd, but he's all right. Curtis Judd, Luke Searveld with Meet the Gaffer, Gaffer and Gear, Grip Tips. There's like, it just depends on like what, yeah, they're all good. Like, they're all good. There's so many more. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. I'm not really good of on the spot stuff. So, okay, we'll just move on. Scott says, did you hear that Sony figured out how to stack two sensors on top of each other to dramatically boost dynamic range and low light abilities? So it should be interesting when that gets released. No, I did not hear about that, but that's insane. Now, I know the R3 has a the R3 has like a stacked sensor or something, I think. Doesn't it? Or is that like a different technology? Here's my thing with cameras, and this is probably why like camera companies won't like send me stuff, because I'm not like smart on sensor technology. My thing with cameras is I just like to use the camera, and that's kind of where it ends. That's why, like with Macs, like I don't like building computers. That's why I get a MacBook, because it's just like I turn it on and just go. Like that's the same with cameras. Now you gotta like know how the sensor reacts. Like, you know, the Komodo is gonna react to things differently than like the Blackmagic cameras or something. But all that other technical stuff, I don't know enough about. I probably should know more about. I'd probably be a better filmmaker and educator if I did know more. But that's interesting. A dramatically boost dynamic range. Question for you: when do you think, like, where do you see like the law of diminishing returns with dynamic range in cameras. Like at one point, like how many stops of dynamic range becomes a diminishing return? And I think in the future that'll probably change. But if you think about, like, a lot of deliverables are in Rec 709 colors. I was reading a comment. A lot of deliverables are still in a Rec 709 color space. So at that point, like, you're not showing 17 stops of dynamic range. Kind of curious. I mean, obviously, the more you can have in camera, obviously allows you to have a smoother looking roll off between your highlights to your shadows, and that obviously is going to be more pleasing. And I think that the human eye can see somewhere around like 20 stops or something. But yeah, it's just something, I don't know, it's just like, good question to ponder on, to chew on. So yeah, because I mean, think about like a scene that has, I don't know. Anyways, let me know what you think. Let's see. Camera companies don't particularly like camera nerds. Oh, well, maybe I am a camera nerd, because camera companies, I don't know. I've never been brave enough to reach out to a camera company, except for one that reached out to me, and we talked a little bit, but nothing really ever came of that. But I've never been brave enough to like reach out of the blue to a camera company and ask for a camera for review. Let's see here. Most people can see between 21 and 24 stops of dynamic range. Okay. So King Kruk Gaming says 20 stops of dynamic range at least. Okay. We should push technology beyond that. Okay. For sure, Scott says, for sure, the biggest problem with dynamic range is the final presentation. We'd need a sun as projector bulb. Fair. Yeah, I think this is a very short-sighted statement, because right now we view a lot in Rec 709, and what I mean by that is, like, for a lot of streaming services, when we're watching on TV, like, it's pretty much like Rec 709-ish. I'm sure there's like a different encoding or something they have, but like YouTube or whatever. And at that point, you're like, okay, well, I'm definitely not seeing 20 stops of dynamic range, but having a camera that can capture 16 or 17 stops or whatever is helpful to have all the information. But when you color grade it and wrap it up and send it out, all those 16, 17 stops are kind of gone. However, a good argument for that, more dynamic range, is you have all that to work with. So even though if you're sending something out at 11 stops dynamic range or whatever it is, your highlights, your shadows is definitely going to be a much cleaner transition. So, yeah, I don't know. Food for thought. Wesley says, what has always cracked me up is how we all need to put over dynamic range, and then we film grain in post. It's obviously important, but is it as important as we act like? Yeah, that's a... I agree, kind of. I still think dynamic range is more important than resolution. I'd rather have more dynamic range than resolution. For example, well, 1 second. This camera here, this is the Blackmagic Cinema camera, the original cinema camera, and it boasts 13 stops of dynamic range. And there are cameras that can shoot like much higher resolution that have less dynamic range. And also the sensor is like, I don't know why it has such a soft spot for me, but it's still like my favorite sensor ever. But I would much rather shoot a project on this camera than another camera. Say like even like a Sony A7S Mark II or something like that. Where am I going with this? I guess like the dynamic range conversation is really important because you can have all the megapixels and all the resolution and everything in the world, but dynamic range is way more important. So like if I had the choice between this camera or shooting in a baked in Rec 709 on say the EOS R5 in 8K, which if you're like standard picture profile 8K on the R5, which I think you can do, I would choose this camera 100%, way more over, because the dynamic, the highlight roll off, it just looks more filmic, which is a word that's kind of been taken over by cinematic. But like for me, I would much prefer using this camera because it just looks better and it looks more timeless than something with higher resolution. Now, resolution has its place, and Red Digital Cinema has done a really good job with, especially the V Raptor with high resolution and the Blackmagic Ursa 12K. But if those cameras didn't have good dynamic range, I would much prefer a camera with less resolution for more dynamic range. So, yeah. Michael says Red and Ari have nailed it enough stops already. It's fair. I think for right now, with HDR delivery not being really the norm, I totally agree with you, Michael. I think what we're seeing is really good, and where cameras lack in dynamic range, DPs make up with good lighting. And that kind of contradicts what I just said about the resolution thing, but I still believe that a more dynamic range is way more important than resolution. Okay, let me move on before I dig myself into a deeper hole. My thoughts on HDR are similar to 3D. It makes it a lot more of an experience. That being said, watching a movie is not something you always want to be an experience. That's fair. That is definitely fair. But with the film grain thing, I guess I never really thought of film grain as being something that covers up a dynamic range or anything like that. I kind of found those to be independent of each other, at least for my use cases. A camera like this definitely don't need film grain, especially when you up-res or super scale it. It has like this digital grain to it that looks really filmic, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Lakey says, I agree. Thanks for joining, by the way. I agree. Dynamic range is much more important than resolution. Oh, the block magic. The brick magic. That's hilarious. Yeah, this camera is awesome. It's got a built-in battery that lasts about 7 minutes. Just records to SSD, like 2.5 inch, like SATA 3 SSD drives. It has built-in 1/4 inch jacks, and the preamps are atrocious. Has SDI out, which is awesome. Thunderbolt 2, I think is what it is, which was never useful to me. And then, so yeah, but I love this camera. I might just start filming more YouTube videos on it, see if people notice. Scott says he came so close to buying the 2.5K years ago and went the 5D Mark III instead, but wishes he went with the Blackmagic. Yeah, I remember when the 5D3 came out and it looked like it was like so sharp. Like I remember when Philip Bloom's review came out and he was showing like foliage, like leaves, and it was like so sharp. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. But then you watch his review on the cinema camera and you're like, you get raw video, which was like at the time from a consumer level, prosumer level, at the time it was $3,000 US when it was released. You get raw video recording. Now it only shoots up to 30p. It's nothing special. The rolling shutter is really bad, and it's a tiny little sensor. You can see how tiny this little sensor is. But let's see if you can see it right here. But for some reason, the image coming out of this camera is just so stinking gorgeous. The colors, the skin tones, like I wish they would just make this sensor into a VistaVision format with some more processing to get a little bit more frames out of it. And oh my gosh, such a good camera. Anyways, I digress. Let's see. Any tips on shooting 8-bit C-Log on the EOS R to get the best color grading? Yeah, get just proper exposure. Expose, I think C-Log 1 for middle gray is at 34%, like 34%. But just make sure your skin tones are exposed properly and you're not 8-bit. You don't have a lot to work with, and it's not the same kind of 8-bit that you find on the C200. C200's 8-bit is actually really good. The EOS R's falls apart a little bit more. So just make sure that you just make sure that you expose properly. That's the absolute best thing you can do for 8-bit C-Log is to expose properly. And then I would use the neutral color profile instead of the Cinema EOS color profile. The neutral color profile just looks a little bit better overall, in my opinion. So hopefully that helps. Is that an original PlayStation with a lens mount? pretty much. Yeah, it's such a good camera. It has such a soft spot. Do you think it really makes sense to upgrade the Blackmagic Pocket 4K to the 6K? That all depends on your workflow needs. I think the image out of the 6K is a more pleasing image. And if you have EF lenses also, if you don't have a lot of EF lenses, then I don't know that it makes sense unless you are trying to move into more EF lenses in the future. But from an image standpoint, I think I would consider the 6K Pro over just the 6K because you get things like the articulating screen, or the moving screen, internal NDs, the option to have an EVF and 2 XLR ports. So stuff like that, just from a physical and UI perspective, makes it a worthwhile upgrade. And I personally, I just think the 6K image looks, this is subjective, I just think it looks better than the 4K. So that's just something. And with like Gen 5 color, I think they really optimize Gen 5 color, optimize that sensor with Gen 5 color in mind, where they kind of put it into the 4K after the fact. So so that's just something I would consider when looking at the 6K. I would rather stretch the budget to the 6K Pro than just the 6K if it were me personally. So let's see here. Upscale the cinema camera 2.5K in post. No one will be able to tell. Yeah, I've done it actually a couple times. I just used the super scale function in DaVinci Resolve and exported out, and no one's ever said anything, but I don't know. Let's see. Magic Lantern on the 5D3 was fun, but boy, would it abuse the compact flashcards. Yeah. Yeah, I was never too I was always too scared to use Magic Lantern on any of my Canon cameras just because I don't I, it just felt sketchy to me. So many people did it and like had great experiences with it. It just seemed sketchy to me, so I never did it. Let's see. How good is the enhancer for 8-bit footage from the EOS R? Interested in buying? The enhancer works really, really good on pretty much everything. And the thing like with 8-bit footage, 8-bit footage isn't necessarily bad if it's exposed properly and you don't have a really, really wide dynamic range in your scene. But if it's exposed properly, your highlights aren't blown out and your shadows aren't crushed, then you can still have a really nice looking image. And one other thing I would probably do with EOS R is try to preserve your highlights more than preserving your shadows. And I think that's a part of that kind of gets into more creative decision. When most people look at an image, they notice the highlights more often, like the skies and the stuff, and people notice that more often, like sunsets, whatever. They notice that more often, whether it's blown out or exposed properly, than they do shadows. And so if you expose for the sky and make sure that's not blown out, more people will notice that than the darker part of the image. At least I do. So anyways, for Dehancer, a couple things. I really like Dehancer. I actually use it on a ton of projects, and especially when you start using like the bloom effect and highlight or halation and stuff. That transition in 8-bit footage, that transition can kind of start to smooth out a little bit. You're not going to recover anything, but just you can use that halation effect to kind of blow out the highlights a little bit even more to just kind of smooth out that transition, to kind of get rid of some of that banding. So let's see. Hopefully that helps. Foreign Productions, thoughts on the A7S III versus A7 IV versus the FX3. I want to try all of those cameras. I'm like, Josh, if you're watching this, you're going to laugh. But I'm like really tempted to get an A7S Mark III. I mean, everything about me wants to get an A7S Mark III or an FX3, except for the fact of lenses. And that's why I've not really gotten into the Sony ecosystem. I had the A6300, I think is what it was, with the like Sigma MC11 adapter, and it just wasn't all that great. And I pretty much just used the A6300 with like a kit lens. So I feel like I never really got into the Sony ecosystem, but I'm so tempted to get an A7S Mark III for like travel and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, that means I'm gonna have to invest in a whole different lens ecosystem, and my heart is just not prepared to go into that journey. Josh, content on content, if you follow his channel, he's like the master of moving systems, and I cannot do that. So I'm just not brave enough for that. See, are you a fan of autofocus? Might sound crazy, but if BM cameras has good autofocus, as good of autofocus as Sony's, it's going to be the best camera, especially for people who film with themselves alone. Yeah, and I love autofocus. I'm using autofocus right now on the Komodo, and for stuff like this, like the Komodo autofocus really shines, like for talking head stuff. I think it's really, really great. And it's just nice to kind of sit down and not have to, wirelessly control focus or anything like that. And just know that if I like lean in a little bit, it'll probably catch me in focus. So it's a tool. I think a lot of people that just use manual focus, even with an autofocus camera, maybe either are first ACs and they pull focus for a living, or maybe they're just in denial. Who knows? but I think autofocus is great. I think it has its place. There are a lot of times where I turn autofocus off for whatever reason, depends on the situation, but I love it. And if Blackmagic came out with a camera with good, reliable autofocus, even as good as the autofocus found in the red Komodo, I would certainly pick up one of those cameras because I love Blackmagic. I love Blackmagic colors and how the image looks. And I love the red Komodo too. Don't get me wrong. They just look different to me, and they're both really good and just both really different. So that I don't know, but that'd be awesome. But I would much rather see Blackmagic come out with a VistaVision sensor with their new 12K sensor technology. I'd rather see that than autofocus in a Blackmagic camera, if I were to be completely honest, because although autofocus is great and it's a nice tool, I don't find it as a necessary tool. That it's not a make or break thing for me. Like if it comes with autofocus, great. Like with the Komodo, it's great that it has it, but that was not my decision on why I purchased it. So, but yeah. Let's see, adapt E to EF as long as you don't need perfect autofocus. It works fine. Yeah, I've thought about that, but like at the same time, Scott, when it comes to like having a camera, spending that kind of money on a camera that has a really good autofocus system, I'd rather just be able to maximize the utility of that camera. And I feel like if I'm adapting EF to E mount through an adapter, I know I'm going to lose that performance, and I don't know. To me, I'd rather just have all the functionality. To be honest, that's probably like why something like maybe like the R5 or R6 or something would make a little bit more sense for me, even though it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like the A7S III has. And the bells and whistles, like the cool little microphone that doesn't have to connect to the microphone input jack. The shotgun mic is cool. Stuff like that. Yeah, anyways. Let's see. Scott, for Sony, you need to own at least 51.2. It's a good lens. Scott says, I love autofocus, but rarely use it. Like he says, thanks. Well, I'm so glad that was helpful. It is now about 4:15 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here in the beautiful Rocky Mountains, which it's like 60-something degrees here in the Denver, Boulder area, which is kind of mind-blowing. But I think I'm going to wrap up this live stream. I'm so stoked that so many of y'all joined and just hung out with me for the last hour or so. Thank you so much for stopping by. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, and we can try to kind of relaunch a stream maybe next week or the week after or something like that. But I've got a little bit more client work that I want to do this afternoon, and then go to the gym and try to climb or something like that. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Appreciate you joining, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. See you guys. And if I don't talk to you before then, and you celebrate Christmas, have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Peace.